Welcome to Books Arena. Today, we're diving into one of the most intense, inspiring, and brutally honest stories of mental toughness and transformation. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This isn't just a book about physical endurance or military achievements. It's a powerful journey into the mind of a man who turned pain, trauma, and self-doubt into fuel to become one of the toughest people alive. David Goggins faced unimaginable challenges: an abusive childhood, racism, poverty, obesity, and self-doubt. But instead of being defeated, he chose a path of relentless self-discipline and radical accountability. Through grueling Navy SEAL training, ultra-endurance races, and pushing past limits most people won't even approach, Goggins developed a mindset that defies pain and hardship. Can't Hurt Me teaches us that most of us live in only 40% of our potential, and that the key to unlocking more is through embracing struggle, mastering your mind, and refusing to be a victim of circumstance. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or limited by your own fears and doubts, this summary is for you. Get ready to learn how to take control of your mind, build unbreakable resilience, and push beyond what you thought was possible. Let's begin the journey into Can't Hurt Me, the story of one man's quest to become unstoppable. Part 1: Early Life and Formative Struggles. David Goggins' story begins in a world of hardship, pain, and struggle. Born in 1975 in Buffalo, New York, David didn't have a childhood many would envy. His early years were shaped by an abusive father who terrorized the family with physical violence and intimidation. This constant atmosphere of fear left deep scars. His father's rage wasn't just random, it was fueled by his own frustrations and the harsh realities they faced as a black family in a racially tense environment. David and his siblings often faced racial discrimination not only outside but within their community and schools. Living in poverty, the family struggled to make ends meet. There was little stability, and young David was frequently exposed to violence and hardship. It was a world where trust was scarce and survival depended on toughness. At school, David faced another set of challenges. He struggled academically due to undiagnosed learning disabilities. Dyslexia made reading and writing difficult, and David was often mocked or underestimated by teachers and classmates. This only deepened his feelings of isolation and failure. The emotional toll was immense. David internalized a belief that he was weak, broken, and incapable. He saw himself as less than everyone else. The combination of abuse, racism, poverty, and academic struggle created a perfect storm of low self-esteem and self-doubt. Yet, even in this bleak environment, a flicker of resilience was forming. David learned early that life was not going to hand him anything. Comfort was scarce. If he wanted to survive, he had to be tough, both physically and mentally. One of the earliest turning points in David's journey was his discovery of what he calls the accountability mirror. This simple but profound tool became a cornerstone of his transformation later in life. The accountability mirror is a concept David developed to confront himself honestly every single day. He would write down his weaknesses, failures, and the brutal truths he didn't want to face on sticky notes and place them directly on his bathroom mirror. Every morning, he looked himself in the eye and read those notes aloud. You have to own your story, no excuses. You have to be brutally honest about where you are and where you want to go. This practice forced David to stop hiding behind excuses or blaming his circumstances. It was a radical form of self-accountability. Why is this so important? Because too many people live their lives avoiding uncomfortable truths. We make excuses, rationalize failures, or blame others for our problems. David's method showed that facing your truth, no matter how painful, is the first step toward real change. But owning your truth is not the same as changing your reality. In his early years, David felt stuck in a cycle of helplessness. He wanted to be different but lacked the roadmap or confidence to do so. The abuse, the bullying, the constant no from life, weighed heavily. There were moments when David nearly gave up on himself entirely. One vivid story he shares is about a time when he tried to run away from home as a young teenager. He was desperate to escape the pain but quickly realized there was no easy way out. The streets were just as dangerous, and he had nowhere safe to go. That moment was a harsh lesson: pain follows you until you decide to face it. Instead of running, David had to find a way to face his fears head-on. Another key element from this time was David's complicated relationship with his own body. By the time he was a teenager, he was overweight, out of shape, and struggling with his identity. He was bullied not just for his race or family situation but also for his physical appearance. This combination left him deeply insecure and motivated him, albeit quietly, to one day change. Yet, the transformation seemed impossible. Most of his environment told him otherwise. His teachers, peers, and even some family members doubted he would amount to anything. This crushing low expectation became part of the internal narrative David had to overcome. Despite all this, David kept a stubborn spark alive, a belief that he was meant for something more. He didn't know how he would get there, but the seed of self-reliance and accountability was planted. One of the most important lessons from David's early years is that hardship alone doesn't create resilience. Many people suffer but don't overcome. What sets people like David apart is their ability to take control of their narrative. David realized he had a choice: be a victim of circumstance or become the author of his own life. This realization was not immediate, it was a process of pain, reflection, and small victories. Another powerful theme from these formative years is the role of embracing discomfort. David learned that the world is often hostile and unfair. You can't wait for life to be easy or perfect to start pushing yourself. Instead, the path to growth is through confronting pain, fear, and failure regularly. This philosophy would become the foundation of everything he built later. So, David's early life sets the stage for an incredible transformation. A young boy shaped by pain and struggle, but refusing to let that define his future. Through brutal honesty, accountability, and a growing hunger for change, David began to build the mental toughness that would one day make him one of the toughest men alive. This first part of Can't Hurt Me teaches us: your past doesn't have to dictate your future. Real change starts with radical honesty with yourself. Resilience is built by facing, not avoiding, your fears and pain. In the next part, we'll see how David took the first bold steps to change his life, shedding his limiting beliefs and starting a journey of extreme physical and mental transformation. Part 2, the decision to change and initial transformation. After a childhood filled with pain, fear, and self-doubt, David Goggins reached a critical crossroads in his early adulthood. He had spent years feeling stuck, overweight, unhappy, and trapped by the limits others and even he himself had set. By the time David was in his early 20s, he weighed over 300 pounds. His health was in jeopardy, and his future seemed uncertain. He had no clear path, no purpose driving him forward. Most people in his situation might have accepted that this was just how life is. But David was different. In one of the most pivotal moments of his life, David decided to take full responsibility for his situation. No more excuses, no more blaming the past or his environment. He understood that the only way out was through total commitment to change. This decision wasn't easy. Transformation rarely is. It meant embracing brutal discipline, facing pain, and dismantling lifelong limiting beliefs. David's first step was fitness. He knew he had to get his body in shape before anything else could change. But even this simple idea was overwhelming when he was obese, out of shape, and lacked experience. He started running, not because he loved it, but because he needed a way to push himself. The first runs were agonizing. His body ached, his lungs burned, and his mind screamed to quit. But quitting wasn't an option anymore. David relied heavily on the lessons he had learned from his accountability mirror, reminding himself every day why he had to change. He also began reading everything he could find about mental toughness, discipline, and self-improvement. One concept that stuck with him was the idea that most people only use about 40% of their potential. This 40% rule became a beacon, a way to push beyond what felt comfortable or possible. If he felt like quitting, he told himself he was only at 40% of what he could endure. There was so much more inside him. As David continued pushing his physical limits, something remarkable happened. He discovered that pain and discomfort were not enemies. They were tool signals that growth was happening. Each painful run, each aching muscle, was proof he was breaking old limits and building new strength. David's physical transformation started to accelerate, but even more importantly, his mindset was evolving. He began to see himself not as a victim of circumstances, but as a warrior in a battle for his own life. This shift in identity was crucial. David realized that transformation wasn't just about losing weight or running faster. It was about reprogramming his mind, forging unbreakable mental toughness. One of the most powerful tools David used was setting impossible goals. He didn't just want to be fit. He wanted to be a Navy SEAL. This goal was audacious. He wasn't physically or mentally prepared. He was overweight and had no military experience. But setting such a high bar gave him direction and purpose. David committed fully to this goal. He began intense workouts, running, biking, swimming to build endurance. He changed his diet and lifestyle. He studied the requirements and expectations of SEAL training. But the physical challenge was only half the battle. SEAL training, especially Hell Week, is as much about mental toughness as it is physical strength. David knew he had to prepare his mind for the torture ahead. He developed a mental framework to face extreme adversity. One of the key concepts was the cookie jar. The cookie jar is a mental vault of past victories, times when you overcame pain, fear, or failure. When things get unbearable, you reach into your cookie jar and remind yourself of those wins. This practice gave David strength in moments when his body wanted to give up. By the time David started Navy SEAL training, he was transformed in many ways physically, mentally, and emotionally. But the journey was far from over. SEAL training pushed him to the brink and beyond. He faced injuries, self-doubt, and near-death experiences. But the discipline and mindset he cultivated in those early transformation years carried him through. David's story during this period shows us that real change demands radical commitment and accountability. You can't half commit and expect extraordinary results. Transformation is as much mental as it is physical. Changing your body without changing your mindset is incomplete. Setting audacious goals creates purpose and direction. Even if the goal feels impossible, it motivates progress. Pain and discomfort are signs of growth, not failure. Learning to embrace and use them is key to pushing limits. David's decision to change wasn't a quick fix. It was a long, painful process of breaking old habits and building new ones. But every small victory fueled the fire. By embracing suffering, holding himself accountable, and committing to relentless improvement, David began the journey that would make him one of the toughest men alive. In the next part, we'll dive into his grueling experience with Navy SEAL training, how he overcame extreme physical and mental challenges, and the lessons he learned from pushing himself beyond what most people can imagine. Part 3, Navy SEAL training and extreme challenges. David Goggins' decision to become a Navy SEAL was a bold and audacious goal, especially given where he started physically and mentally. But this chapter of his journey would define his life in ways nothing else could. The path to becoming a SEAL is one of the most grueling military challenges in the world. The infamous Hell Week is a relentless test of endurance, strength, and, most of all, mental toughness. It's designed to break even the toughest candidates. When David first began his training, he was pushed to extremes he never imagined. His body was constantly in pain, battered by cold water, brutal physical exertion, and sleep deprivation. His mind fought exhaustion and the desire to quit at every moment. But what made David different was his mental approach. He had learned to embrace the suffering instead of fearing it. Every moment of pain was a chance to prove his resilience and grow stronger. One of his key mental tools during training was the cookie jar. This isn't a literal jar but a mental strategy. Whenever he faced overwhelming difficulty, he reached into his cookie jar, a collection of memories of past victories, moments when he overcame obstacles. By recalling these moments, he reminded himself that he had the strength and willpower to endure anything. The cookie jar became a powerful motivator, especially during Hell Week, when the body screams to stop. David also learned to quiet his mind, controlling the inner voice that said "I can't." Instead of fighting his thoughts, he observed them and pushed past them, often by breaking challenges down into small, manageable steps. But the physical trials weren't the only obstacles. David also had to overcome his own self-doubt and fears. He was not the fastest swimmer or the strongest candidate. Injuries and setbacks threatened to derail his journey. At one point, he developed a serious heart condition and was told he might never qualify. Most people would have given up. David didn't. He underwent surgery, committed to a brutal rehabilitation, and fought to get back in shape. This period tested not only his physical limits but his mental resolve. His refusal to quit, even when the odds were stacked against him, became a hallmark of his character. Finally, after multiple attempts and relentless perseverance, David graduated as a Navy SEAL, a transformation few thought possible given his background. This achievement marked a turning point. It was proof that mental toughness could overcome almost any obstacle. David's time as a SEAL only deepened his understanding of suffering and resilience. He completed multiple deployments in hostile environments, but what defined him wasn't just battlefield bravery, it was his dedication to pushing himself beyond conventional limits. David didn't stop at becoming a SEAL. He went on to tackle even more extreme challenges. He became an ultramarathon runner, setting records in some of the world's toughest endurance races. These races took him across deserts, mountains, and icy landscapes, often running for dozens of hours straight, battling exhaustion, injury, and the threat of failure. In these moments, the mental lessons from his Navy training were critical. He relied on the cookie jar, the 40% rule, and his ability to control his mind in the face of overwhelming pain. David's story during this phase shows us that mental strength is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. But it's also about consistency. Mental toughness isn't built overnight, it's forged through daily, relentless effort. David's journey teaches us that the greatest limits we face are often self-imposed. We quit long before our bodies give out. We tell ourselves stories of why we can't succeed, stories built from fear and doubt. David challenges us to rewrite those stories. He shows that by facing pain head-on, by embracing discomfort and suffering, we can push far beyond what we think possible. In this part of Can't Hurt Me, the lessons are clear. Mental toughness is the key to overcoming extreme challenges. Embracing pain instead of avoiding it builds resilience. Using past victories as fuel, the cookie jar, helps push through hardship. Persistence despite setbacks defines true strength. David's Navy SEAL journey is one of relentless determination, mental mastery, and transformation. It reminds us that anyone can push beyond their limits, but it requires courage, discipline, and an unbreakable mindset. In the next part, we'll explore David's transition from military service to ultra-endurance racing, a world where his mental toughness was tested in new ways and where he broke records by pushing his body and mind to the absolute edge. Part 4, Ultra-endurance and pushing limits. After completing his Navy SEAL training and serving in the military, David Goggins didn't slow down. Instead, he shifted his focus to an entirely different kind of challenge: ultra-endurance racing. These races are not your typical marathons, they test the limits of human endurance, often covering hundreds of miles across some of the most grueling environments on Earth. For David, ultra-endurance events became the new battlefield. The stakes were no longer just about life and death in combat, but about conquering the physical and mental limits of his own body. David's entry into this world was not easy. He was still carrying the weight of his past, and the physical toll of his earlier life struggles had left him vulnerable to injury. But, true to form, David approached ultra-endurance with the same relentless mindset he had developed in the military. One of his first big races was the Badwater 135, a 135-mile race through Death Valley in California during summer, where temperatures can soar above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It's considered one of the toughest foot races in the world. Few people even attempt it. David not only attempted it, he finished it. More impressively, he finished it after suffering severe dehydration and injury during the race. But it wasn't just finishing that mattered, it was how he did it. David pushed himself to the brink of collapse, embracing the pain, the exhaustion, and the despair that would have broken most competitors. The lessons from his Navy SEAL training carried over, particularly his mental tools. The cookie jar technique was crucial here, as was the famous 40% rule. David explains that when your mind tells you you're done, you're actually only about 40% done. There's a vast reserve of untapped potential inside everyone, but few people learn how to access it. Through years of ultra-endurance racing, David refined his ability to control his mind during extreme physical suffering. He learned to quiet the negative voices, break down pain into manageable moments, and focus on incremental progress. David also developed what he calls call using the mind. Just as your hands develop calluses after repeated physical work, your mind can toughen through repeated exposure to discomfort and adversity. He sought out pain and suffering as training grounds to strengthen his mental calluses. His endurance races weren't just about personal glory. They were battles against his own inner demons, the self-doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs born in his childhood. Every mile conquered was a victory over his past. David's extreme physical feats set new standards. He went on to complete dozens of ultramarathons, ultra-triathlons, and even broke the world record for the most pull-ups done in 24 hours, another testament to his commitment to pushing limits. But more than the physical accomplishments, David's ultra-endurance career teaches profound lessons about the power of the human spirit. Suffering is inevitable, but pain is optional. You can't avoid suffering, but how you respond to it defines your strength. Mental toughness is learned, not innate. Anyone can build it through deliberate practice and exposure to discomfort. The mind and body are connected. Physical challenges shape mental resilience, and mental resilience fuels physical endurance. Limits exist mostly in the mind. When you believe you're done, you're only partway there. There's always more to give. David's ultra-endurance journey also reveals the importance of purpose. His motivation was never just to finish races or set records. It was about proving to himself and to anyone who doubted him that you can redefine what's possible through sheer willpower and discipline. This period of David's life reflects the essence of the "can't hurt me" philosophy: embrace the grind, welcome suffering, and use it as a tool to become stronger. Yet, this wasn't an easy path. David's body took a heavy toll from years of intense physical strain. He suffered injuries, exhaustion, and the mental strain of pushing beyond limits. But even then, he refused to quit. David teaches that there is a balance between pushing hard and knowing your body. The goal is not reckless self-destruction but purposeful growth. His ultra-endurance story is a testament to how far the human mind and body can go when fueled by discipline, accountability, and relentless grit. For anyone feeling stuck or limited, David's journey offers a powerful reminder. Your potential is far greater than you think. Suffering and struggle are not barriers but bridges to growth. If you commit to the process, if you master your mind, you can push beyond what you believed possible. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into the mental strategies David uses every day, how he mastered his mindset, the 40% rule in detail, and the daily practices that keep him disciplined and unbreakable. Part 5, Mindset Mastery and the 40% Rule. One of the most powerful ideas in Can't Hurt Me and perhaps David Goggins' signature mental tool is the 40% rule. This concept fundamentally challenges how we think about limits and potential. David explains that when your mind is telling you that you're done, that you can't go any further, you're actually only at about 40% of your capacity. In other words, most people operate far below their true potential because their minds give up long before their bodies do. This revelation was a game changer for David. It helped him push through moments of extreme pain and exhaustion during his Navy SEAL training, ultramarathons, and life challenges. The 40% rule became a mental lever, a way to tap into reserves of strength and endurance hidden beneath the surface. But the 40% rule isn't just about physical endurance, it applies to every area of life where you feel stuck or limited. It teaches us that our biggest limitations are often mental, created by fear, doubt, and the stories we tell ourselves. To master this mindset, David developed a series of mental strategies and daily practices that helped him build unbreakable discipline and resilience. First is the idea of call using the mind, which we touched on earlier. Just as you build physical calluses by working your hands hard, you build mental toughness by intentionally seeking out discomfort and challenges. You expose yourself to stress regularly and learn to endure it. David didn't shy away from pain. He sought it. He ran ultramarathons in freezing cold, pushed his body in Navy SEAL Hell Week, and constantly set new goals just beyond his current abilities. Each time he pushed through suffering, his mind grew stronger, more resilient. Another key practice David uses is the accountability mirror, a daily ritual of self-honesty. He writes down the hard truths about his weaknesses and shortcomings on sticky notes, places them on his mirror, and reads them aloud every day. This brutal honesty forces him to confront excuses and lies he might tell himself and drives continuous improvement. This practice is about owning your story without sugarcoating it. It's a wake-up call and a call to action at the same time. David also talks about the importance of embracing the suck. Life is hard. You can't avoid pain or discomfort, but you can choose to lean into it instead of running away. By accepting that suffering is part of growth, you remove its power to defeat you. This philosophy flips the usual mindset of avoiding pain and seeking comfort. David shows that comfort zones are prisons, and true freedom comes from pushing beyond them. Another mental tool is breaking down overwhelming challenges into small, manageable steps. When facing brutal physical pain or mental fatigue, David focuses on just getting through the next moment, just one more step, just one more breath. This keeps the mind from becoming paralyzed by the magnitude of the task and helps build momentum. David's mindset mastery also involves redefining failure. He doesn't see failure as the end but as a stepping stone, a lesson to be learned. Each setback was a chance to get stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the next challenge. This ability to reframe failure transformed his approach to life and challenges. Another profound lesson from David's mindset work is the importance of purpose and why. It's not enough to just push through pain, you need a deep, meaningful reason why you endure. David's why was shaped by his desire to overcome his past and prove to himself and the world that he was not defined by pain or limitations. This purpose fueled his grit and kept him moving forward when everything inside wanted to stop. Finally, David emphasizes the power of self-discipline as the foundation for lasting change. Discipline isn't about motivation or inspiration, which come and go. It's about showing up every day, doing the work even when you don't feel like it. Whether it's training, work, or personal growth, discipline creates habits and consistency that build unstoppable momentum. David's story shows us that mental mastery is not a fixed trait, it's a skill that can be developed and strengthened with practice. It requires brutal honesty, embracing discomfort, reframing failure, and living with purpose. The 40% rule is a powerful reminder that we all have untapped reserves of strength waiting to be unleashed. If you can learn to push past your perceived limits, your potential is nearly limitless. In the next part, we'll explore David's most extreme challenges and the lessons he's learned from facing life-threatening moments, showing how resilience can be built even in the darkest hours. Part 6, Facing Life-Threatening Challenges and Building Resilience. David Goggins' story is not just about pushing limits in controlled environments like races or military training. It's also about how he confronted and survived truly life-threatening challenges and how those moments shaped his mental toughness and resilience. One of the most dramatic incidents happened in 2006 during an ultra-endurance race. David had already earned a reputation for taking on brutal events, but this race tested him like never before. During the event, he suffered from extreme dehydration, kidney failure, and severe damage to his body. He was on the brink of collapse, his life hanging in the balance. Medical professionals warned him that continuing could cause permanent damage or even death. Most people would have stopped immediately. But David's mindset is different. He saw pain and suffering not as signals to quit, but as opportunities to grow stronger. His mind told him to push forward, no matter the cost. This willingness to endure extreme hardship has risks, but for David, it was part of mastering his own limits. His story reminds us that resilience is not about avoiding pain or risk but about facing it head-on with courage. David also faced life-threatening heart issues earlier in his life. As he pushed his body to extremes, he was diagnosed with a serious heart condition. His heart's function was severely impaired, and doctors gave him grim warnings. But rather than surrender, David committed to healing and strengthening his heart through disciplined training and lifestyle changes. He used the same mental toughness that carried him through Hell Week and ultramarathons to recover and come back stronger. These experiences taught David a powerful lesson: resilience is about more than physical toughness. It's about the will to live, adapt, and overcome even when the odds are stacked against you. Another critical factor in building resilience is how David dealt with setbacks and failure. Throughout his journey, he encountered injuries, disappointments, and moments when quitting seemed like the easiest option. But he cultivated a mindset of radical ownership. Instead of blaming circumstances or making excuses, he took full responsibility for his situation and his reactions. This level of accountability gave him control over his life. David also stresses the importance of building a callus on your mind, repeatedly exposing yourself to hardship so that when real adversity strikes, it doesn't break you. He intentionally sought out discomfort, whether through freezing water immersion, extreme exercise, or facing emotional pain. This hardening of the mind allowed him to remain calm and focused in crises. His story shows that true resilience comes from preparation, not luck or innate toughness. You build it piece by embracing struggle before it's forced on you. David's approach to life-threatening challenges also involves mental reframing. He views pain and fear as signals that he's growing, not as reasons to retreat. When faced with danger or extreme difficulty, he asks himself, "What can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? What part of me will I prove wrong by enduring this?" This mindset shifts suffering from a negative experience to a powerful tool for growth. David's story of resilience teaches us that resilience is cultivated, not born. Facing and embracing life's hardest moments builds unbreakable mental strength. Radical accountability and ownership give you control even in chaos. Mental call using prepares you for unexpected crises. Reframing fear and pain changes your relationship with adversity. Ultimately, David's life shows that no matter how hard life hits, you can choose how to respond. You can let suffering defeat you, or you can use it to become stronger than you ever imagined. In the final part of Can't Hurt Me, we'll explore how David maintains his relentless discipline and mental toughness every day, the habits, routines, and mindset that keep him can't hurt no matter what life throws at him. Part 7, Daily Discipline and Living the Can't Hurt Me Philosophy. David Goggins' incredible journey from an abused child to Navy SEAL, ultra-endurance athlete, and mental toughness icon is powered not just by singular moments of courage but by the daily discipline that underpins everything he does. In Can't Hurt Me, David emphasizes that true transformation and mental mastery aren't just about pushing through big challenges. They are built in the small, everyday decisions and routines that create unstoppable momentum. For David, discipline is the ultimate equalizer. Motivation fades. Inspiration is fleeting. But discipline is what shows up day after day, rain or shine, pain or comfort, when you don't feel like it. One of his key routines is his early morning workouts. David wakes up hours before most people, often before dawn, to train his body and mind. Whether it's running, cycling, swimming, or calisthenics, he commits to grinding through the discomfort even when every part of him wants to quit. This morning discipline isn't just physical. It's a mental practice of commitment and accountability. Showing up when it's hard trains his brain to handle bigger challenges with calm and focus. David also uses what he calls the accountability mirror every day. This practice involves writing brutally honest notes to himself about his weaknesses and goals, placing them on his mirror, and reading them aloud every morning. It's a ritual of self-honesty that drives continuous growth and refuses to let excuses take root. His approach to discipline is ruthless but effective. He believes that most people live their lives in a state of comfort and avoid real challenge. Comfort zones, he says, are prisons that keep us from reaching our true potential. So he deliberately seeks pain and suffering as training grounds to build mental calluses. Whether it's freezing cold water immersion, running ultramarathons, or holding difficult conversations, David embraces hardship as the path to growth. Another cornerstone of his daily philosophy is visualization and preparation. David prepares mentally for challenges by visualizing worst-case scenarios and rehearsing his responses. This mental rehearsal reduces fear and sharpens focus when the moment arrives. He also constantly pushes his limits with new goals and challenges, refusing to settle or plateau. This approach ensures that his mind stays sharp, adaptable, and unbreakable. David's philosophy is deeply rooted in ownership and accountability. He refuses to blame circumstances, other people, or even his difficult past. Instead, he owns every part of his life story, the good and the bad, and uses it as fuel. This level of ownership frees him from victimhood and empowers action. Finally, David emphasizes the importance of purpose. His relentless discipline isn't just about toughness or endurance, it's about living a life aligned with his deepest values. His purpose to prove that anyone can overcome their limitations and rewrite their story keeps him grounded and motivated. For listeners, David's daily discipline and mindset offer clear lessons. Show up every day, even when it's hard. Consistency builds unstoppable momentum. Embrace discomfort and suffering as essential to growth, not as obstacles. Use brutal honesty to hold yourself accountable and refuse excuses. Visualize and prepare mentally to reduce fear and sharpen focus. Own your story completely, don't let your past define or limit you. Connect with a deeper purpose that fuels persistence and grit. David Goggins' life is a testament to the power of discipline and mindset. He proves that greatness isn't about talent or luck, it's about the daily commitment to push past pain, rewrite limiting beliefs, and keep moving forward no matter what. By adopting even some of his daily practices and mental tools, anyone can begin building the resilience and mental toughness to overcome their own challenges. So whether you're facing physical trials, emotional struggles, or professional obstacles, remember David's message. You are capable of far more than you think. By embracing suffering, owning your life, and committing to relentless discipline, you truly can't hurt. Thank you for joining us on this powerful journey through Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. His story is more than an autobiography, it's a masterclass in mental toughness, discipline, and the human spirit's capacity to overcome. If there's one key takeaway, it's this: the limits you see are often the limits you accept. David challenges us all to push past those boundaries, embrace discomfort, and rewrite our stories with courage and relentless effort. If you found value in this summary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new book breakdown here on Books Arena. And tell us in the comments which part of David Goggins' story inspired you the most. Or how do you plan to apply his lessons in your life? Remember, the journey to becoming unbreakable starts with one step, so keep pushing, keep grinding, and keep becoming. Until next time, this is Books Arena, where every book fuels your growth. Stay strong, stay hungry.